There are many approaches to addressing the issue of poverty, some of them more effective than others. But which are the most effective, and why do organizations dedicated to the relief of poverty so often fail? In the United States, the U.S. Census Bureau takes into account the size of a family and the household income of that family to determine whether the members of that family are suffering from poverty. In contiguous America, a single person is considered impoverished if they make less than $12,140 per year, with an additional $4,320 for each additional family member. These thresholds are determined by tripling the annual cost of a minimum food diet. In 2017, the official poverty rate was 12.3%, the highest of any wealthy country.
And you look at the official poverty rate and it stays about, it goes up and down, but there's no long-term trend.
Okay.
The problem is that the official poverty rate is totally defective, useless, utterly useless, tells you nothing, because it ignores most of most of the welfare system is delivered through in-kind transfers like Medicaid and SNAP and housing assistance rather than cash. The official poverty measure only measures the cash that people have.
Yeah.
So it is a totally useless measure. You know, the official poverty rate is like this, and the real poverty has been going down, and the welfare and the increased generosity. You know, it's not true necessarily each and every year, but over the long-term trend has been the system has become more generous.
So how does poverty correlate with homelessness and welfare? Clearly, not all those suffering from poverty are homeless, nor do they all require government assistance. In fact, only 1.4% of those classified as impoverished are actually homeless. Additionally, the term welfare encompasses many kinds of government assistance, extended to people both below and above the poverty line.
So, just to kind of start this out, what would you say is the biggest cause of poverty in the United States? If you were to assign it.
The biggest cause of poverty is there are a lot of people who have very low skill levels and cannot produce very much.
Yeah.
So left to their own devices, they would have an extremely low standard of living.
Okay.
And their earnings are very low. Now, in part, their earnings are low because of the system, and we have disincentivized work. But that's not the main thing. People have low levels of education, low skill levels, and low earnings. Anyway, what I was going to say about the welfare system is the total cost of it now is about $1 trillion.
Yeah.
To put that in context, the total expenditures of the federal government is $4 trillion. So it's about a fourth of the. Not quite right. It's less than a fourth, because some of these are intergovernmental grant programs, and in some cases states contribute something. So
it's a large project.
But it's a large amount. I mean, the whole GNP of the country is only $17 trillion. So
Many have argued about the effectiveness of government-sponsored welfare, some saying that the cost of government assistance is too high, while others arguing that we are not giving enough. Criticism of the welfare state increased in 1976 during Ronald Reagan's presidential campaign. Reagan also warned that reliance on welfare created a cycle of poverty in groups of already disadvantaged people.
Do you believe the way our welfare system is constructed creates a nature in which poverty becomes a cycle? A cycle in which they are given assistance?
Yes,
and then...
yes, I do. Again, it's those features it's a combination of things. The subsidy formulas in most of the programs have this feature. If you earn nothing, we give you a lot, and then we take. We can disagree whether a lot is the right word.
Yeah.
We give you something, and we take it away. So that food stamps is like that. All of HUD's housing assistance programs are like that. TANF is like that. SSI is like that. Medicaid is a little bit different work as anyway. So, but they create disincentives of work. So you have people. You have children growing up in households where not a lot of work is going on.
In the U.S., there are 6 major welfare programs. They are temporary assistance for needy families, Medicaid, food stamps, supplemental security income, earned income tax credit, and housing assistance. This does not include what are called entitlement programs. The four major entitlement programs in the United States are Social Security, Medicare, unemployment insurance, and workers' compensation. These programs are separated based on how they are funded and who they are accessible for. Welfare programs are entirely government funded, and anyone with a low enough income level can take advantage of them. Entitlement programs, on the other hand, are funded by workers and employers who pay into them directly during their working years. This allows workers to receive benefits from these programs when they are sick or retired, no matter their income level.
So there are two senses. If you're asking me, has the welfare system led to much higher level of consumption for the poorest people in this country? The answer is definitely yes.
Okay.
If you're asking me whether the welfare system has done a good job of enabling people to produce more than they would otherwise have produced, no. It's a failure.
Okay.
It has induced them to work to produce less because it has work disincentives. Let me just see if I can.
So how effective are these government programs when compared to private organizations also aimed at relieving the effects of poverty? In general, the more money that goes directly to the impoverished, the more effective the program is. This can be hindered by a number of different factors within the organization. Government programs have much more consistent funding because they are guaranteed money each year by the federal, state, and local budgets, rather than relying on inconsistent donations. This allows them to make and follow through on more detailed and widespread plans to alleviate poverty. Do you think that community organizations are a viable means to remedy poverty?
Just reading something by the person who headed the food bank. I don't know whether nationally or in the state of Massachusetts, where he said no.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the head of a food bank, they're trying to do that. People need food, but they said people just keep coming back.
On the other hand, government programs are often weighed down by heavy regulation and partisan disagreement, which can hinder or even disable their ability to positively affect the lower class. In this way, private organizations have an advantage over public ones because they are able to make intentional decisions about exactly how their money is used. Both private and government programs suffer because often not all the money intended to reach the impoverished actually reaches them. According to one Cambridge professor, only 30% of the money invested in government welfare programs goes directly to the needy, while private organizations manage to give away closer to 70%. This is due to the fact that private organizations are under more pressure to reduce costs because they heavily rely on donations. On the other hand, many charitable organizations receive a large amount of funding directly from the government. This means that without government sponsorship, they would fail.
One thing that is true is that a lot of private charities that work in this area actually get their money from the government, as opposed from raising it from independent donation. There are not-for-profits who develop and operate housing projects. But they don't get their money from charitable contributions. They get their money from the government. I mean, they get almost all of their money from government.
So just a majority of probably what they would have?
Yeah.
When we asked Dr. Olson what, in his opinion, would be the most effective step to reducing poverty in the United States, he told us that only the government would be large enough and organized enough to make a significant difference.
I would simplify the whole system. I don't think we need to have housing programs. I don't think we need to have don't need to have the food assistance programs. I would simply say what we want to do is to reduce the subsidy. To have we could have a unified EITC program. Here's how it would be. It would be as simple as this. Put Medicaid aside for the moment.
Yeah.
Put Medicaid aside because there may be a separate. So here's what I think we should have. We should have for zero earnings, you get a certain amount. In cash, a cash amount. No food stamps, no housing assistance. This is a cash amount which is going to be less than the sum of the amounts under all of the existing programs. At zero earnings. So if you earn zero, you're going to get less.
All right.
But if you earn more, we can make it even more than 40 cents for each additional dollar earned, something like this. So it's like getting rid of all of the other programs and just raising this whole schedule up, but maybe even creating more of an incentive to work.
Ultimately, private organizations operate with the freedom and efficiency of any private business, while government organizations are often bogged down by bureaucracy. On the other hand, there are many advantages to having a well-controlled welfare state that is able to reach more people and receives constant funding. One of the main points made by Dr. Olson was that there is currently very little good data about the effectiveness of both government programs and charitable organizations, making them difficult to compare. The strengths and weaknesses between the two systems are so different that it is possible they need to coexist to be effective, and that one would flounder without the other.